Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning, as we are most mornings at 8 o'clock Central. We get together to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. Today is September 17th, 2024, and our topic today, as shown on the screen, is a simple process to make money through financial literacy. So the big picture is we have a 501c3, we have a dual mission, one of which is to improve financial literacy, but we're talking about business financial literacy, not consumer financial literacy. There's the Dave Ramsey's and the Robert Kiyosaki's, and there's lots of resources for the average person to learn about saving money and budgeting and personal credit and all of that. What you and I focus on instead, though, is business credit, business finance, business funding. And then the second aspect of our mission is to take that knowledge and help entrepreneurs access capital to start or grow a business. So with that being said, we've really evolved to a remarkably simple model that you as a distribution partner can engage. We were talking yesterday about Dave Ramsey and how successful he's been, regardless of your opinion of his teachings. We're not evaluating that, but as an entrepreneur, he has made hundreds of millions of dollars by taking financial literacy to local communities, often through churches. Well, that's a big part of what you and I are doing, most likely, at least we should be, is taking financial literacy out at a grassroots level. But today, we're going to talk about the process. There's a three-step process that you should be aware of. It's not very complicated, but if you don't know it, it can be a real barrier from you being able to monetize the help. Because what do we do as entrepreneurs? We solve problems. We identify problems that other people have, we create solutions, and we implement a business around that. So let's make sure that you know how to implement the business around financial literacy, which should generate around $11,000 per participant to you. And I realize $11,000 isn't get rich quick. It's not like winning the lottery. But if we start educating and follow the model, we probably won't help just one person. We'll help multiple people per month, per week, or even per day. And then all of a sudden, that becomes very significant. So there's a three-step process. I want to make sure before we leave today that you understand the three steps, not very complicated. The first thing that we need to do is qualify the prospect. So we're not sales, but we do need to qualify the prospect to see if there's someone that has a problem that you and I can help with. The great news is the qualification is very simple. It's one sentence, one question. You don't have to assess their credit or their income or their industry. It's one question. Are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? That's it. Some of you I talk to, and I think that you fail to ever ask this question to your prospect. So you might have some really interesting conversations with people, but you're off track from the get-go. Because if they don't say yes to this, then they're not a prospect for at least what you and I are doing. So the first thing we need to do is simply determine, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Make sense? Easy to ask. And frankly, many of your advertisements or outreach or social media marketing should be built around that question. That's our target market, right? It doesn't matter if they have a new business or an old business. It doesn't matter if they're in Maine or Florida. It doesn't matter if they have great credit or bad credit. It's just simply, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Simple enough. So from there, we need to now assess their fundability. But you got to get in the right mindset on number two. Because what will often happen is you'll resort to say, oh, I'm screening people out. If you've ever gone to a bank or I guess anywhere else and applied for funding, it always seems like they're looking for a reason not to loan you money. So you're kind of always on eggshells wondering, well, I wonder what the right answer to this is so I can get funding or get a yes. Much different here. We're just trying to determine what is the prospect's level of fundability at the get-go. So if they are fundable, then we are going to go a different track, which we'll discuss in number 3. If they're not fundable, then we're going to help them become fundable. As I mentioned yesterday, in many ways, we're trying to mimic the success of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, not to compete against Mr. Ramsey, but to replicate that over in the business financial literacy space. And we're excited that we hired one of the former Ramsey employees. His name's Matthew. And so Matthew has been helping us guide our strategy to have a more effective implementation. And one of the things that Matthew recommended is that we have some really short messages, no more than 3 minutes, closer to 2 minutes is perfect, to be able to interact with our prospects. So thanks to Matthew for helping us develop this. We're going to go ahead and watch it for a moment. And this is a new video that, of course, you can have too, branded to you. And it addresses number 2, and then we'll come back to the agenda. But let's watch this. You should have sound playing through as well. Here we go. Now I'll pause this for a moment. So what it's going to do is it's going to present the 6 fundability questions for the prospect to think about. Because again, I don't know how to convey this stronger. You know how to have a fundable business. There's a formula, there's a process that works 100% of the time. But most people don't know what you know. Therefore, we have to determine what do they have in place to have a fundable business. So what we're doing is we're going through and breaking it down into 6 questions. We ask the question directly, but then we do add some descriptions or some qualification, because this is crucial. Because if you and I just went out and asked 100 small business owners, oh, do you have a business plan? That's very generic. So most of them would say yes, because they have it in their head, or they have it on a napkin, or they have it somewhere as a saved document from 6 years ago. But is that enough to get funding? Of course it's not. There's some nuances that are important. So on each of these slides, or at least most of these slides, we'll present the question. We will ask the question succinctly, but then we offer some description behind it. And so a big part of what you do if you want to be one of our financial literacy educators is you're doing these assessments. You're assessing small businesses in terms of how fundable they are. So this video is kind of a fun way to interact with them. But of course, on 509pacific.org, the checklist is here in a ready-to-go format. But let's go ahead and finish the video, because if you're not very familiar with these 6 elements of fundability, then I apologize, but you're not very good at your job. You can't be if you don't know what it takes to have a fundable business. That makes you no better than, or no more knowledgeable than your prospects are. And then again, it's being able to ask the question and then describe the nuances that makes it relevant. So we're on question 1. It's only a 2-minute video. We're 25% of the way through it. So let's continue on. Here we go. So we'll pause it again. So question number 1, business plan. Most people are going to say, yeah, I've heard of a business plan. Some of these elements that we discuss are going to be much less familiar to the average entrepreneur. So again, I ask you to treat people with love and patience, because you're high up here, high in knowledge and financial literacy. The average person doesn't know this. And so please don't underappreciate the importance of using this as both an educational tool and an assessment tool. Let's move on. So you'll see a pattern. So there is the topic. We ask them the express question. Often there's a qualifier. There's not on this one because it's so straightforward. And then we interject, hey, don't worry about it. We can help you if you don't have it. Because people are so ingrained when it comes to funding that they're worried about being screened out. And we're not. We're going to help everyone. So if they have none of these 6 or all of these 6 or half of these 6, you and I, we're going to help them. But we need to understand the starting points. Like when you take your car into the garage, the mechanic has to do an assessment. Or when you go into the doctor's office, you're not feeling well, they have to diagnose you. You and I have to diagnose or identify the starting point of the client to help them get from where they're at to where they need to be fundable. Okay, we're halfway through. Hang in there with me. 1 more minute to go. I don't want to say that it's frustrating, but certainly it's one of the most challenging aspects of what we do is that sometimes entrepreneurs, as we go through this, they'll think it's like optional. Oh, no, I don't have collateral. I don't need that. I'm a startup. Well, that's them, unfortunately, admitting they're financially illiterate. I mean, you and I are going through what it takes to be qualified for a business loan. It's not an opinion. It's not a popularity contest. It's not about them being right, you being right, me being about right. It's factual. So that's where the human side comes in of making sure that they understand that they can't just say, well, yeah, I don't really care about collateral. Well, the lender does, right? Lenders normally care about collateral. So if you don't meet all 6 of these elements, then you're not fundable. But the good news is we can help them. All right, questions 5 and 6, and we'll wrap this up. So you and I know there's a difference between personal and business credit. There's different lenders. Some only look at business credit. That's true. Many of them will also look at personal credit. I think this guy's kind of funny here. This is what a lot of your clients will kind of give you. When you ask them this question, they'll kind of bow their head down and shake their head. And everyone, no, I shouldn't say, most everyone will have an excuse. Well, I had good credit until the War of 1912. You know, there's always some extenuating circumstance, but we're not here to judge people. We're simply here to legally and ethically help them become fundable, help them understand what it takes. And then, of course, you'll see the little red writing pop up here in a second because we're going to help them with any of these elements that they're short on. Now, if you notice when the video was going, this lady here, she's like gnawing at her fingernails very nervously. A lot of times when you get into the financial aspects, that's where entrepreneurs are often, not always, but often the least comfortable. And so it's so important that you continue to convey to them as we're going through the assessment, the 6-question assessment. It's okay if you don't have all of this. It's even okay if it all doesn't make sense. This is what's required, and we can help you put together what you're missing. That's what we're here for. Okay, so that's the end of that, and we'll pull the notes back up. So obviously, when we create this for you, it'll have your call to action. right? Here, this is our generic call to action, which takes them here to complete this. But what you're going to want to do is have a separate version of this that's driving them back to you to interface with you so you can assess them. Make sense? So if we need to understand the three-step process, we need to qualify the prospect by asking, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Then we need to assess their fundability. There's 6 questions. I showed you the video. I sent you all the video yesterday. And then, of course, I also showed you on the 509 website, which is this link here, where the questions are. Now, you could play with this a little bit. You could give them a score on 1 to 6, where if they have a perfect score, they're 6 out of 6. What's important to understand is that the average person's mindset is, oh, I've got some of them, and that's okay. Well, there are different lenders, and different lenders have different underwriting criteria, but our job through the grant is to create fundable businesses across all 6 elements. So essentially, we're looking to determine, are they fundable, which is defined as a score of 6 out of 6. So that takes us to our call to action. And there's really 2 calls to action to choose from. If they're fundable, now again, you and I are using fundable as a definition that they have all 6 of those 6 elements. To you and I, that's what means fundable. If you allow the prospective client to define, are they fundable or not, they're going to say yes, because they want funding, often in disregard to what we just trained them on. So if they are fundable, great. They don't need to go through our 4-week program. They're ready to go to funding. You and I can help them go to funding, and they have no upfront cost, and you get paid off of the back end. So that's fine. But from our experience, you're looking, and I'd say 1 out of 100, but I think that's too many. I think it's maybe 1 out of 1,000 people that you talk to are really fundable. They have all these elements in place. Rarely is it the case. They may think so, but if they do say, yeah, I have all 6 of those items, I'm ready to go, then great. We can go ahead and help you get funding. There's no advance cost. Perfect. But let's go ahead and collect your documentation. What? Well, so what they said is they have a good business plan. Okay, have them send it to you so we can assess it together. They say they have a qualifying commercial lease. Great. Have them send it to you so you and I can look at it. They say that they have a business entity that's in good standing. Great. Have them validate that. They should have tax returns then, right? They say they have enough collateral. Well, great. Let's see your balance sheet. Or your list of collateral. Credit worthiness. We can do a soft pull. We can look at their Dun & Bradstreet. But the point is that you can see that very few people, and this isn't you and I trying to create something that no one qualifies for on their own to generate demand for what you and I do, because frankly, what we're trying to offer them is a free service, which I'll get to in a moment. That's the next box here. But people, I don't know how to say this. Some people will lie. Some people will bluff. Some people will give responses that are not true based upon a misunderstanding. You can categorize it however you want. But the bottom line is very few people have their affairs in order. Even when we have clients that come to us that are the most qualified, those that we're going after and getting millions of dollars of funding, they almost always still need help with at least one of these elements. And that's good. That means you and I have a solution to a big problem. Nearly every entrepreneur has this problem. They aren't fundable. So there's 2 call to actions. If they do have all 6, or they tell you they have all 6, let's go ahead and, as they say, trust but verify. Let's collect the documentation. You and I can look at it, make sure, and then we can take them to funding. We need the documentation to determine where to go to funding. So even back here on the SBA checklist, we talk about a number of different SBA loans. And of course, there's lots of loans that are not SBA related. But we need to know enough about the business to figure out where to take them for funding. So that makes it perfectly reasonable that we're going to ask for their documentation. So this is rare. This is rare. Could happen, but it's rare. But what's common is they don't have everything in place. Therefore, we're going to help them. And they may have some elements, but it takes all. And so if they don't have everything in place, then we're going to bring them in to the entrepreneurship program. So we've talked about that before. We can go over here, go to the entrepreneurship program page. And this is what we talked about yesterday, for example, on training. This is the workshop. How much does it cost the participant for the workshop? Zero. How much does it cost you for you and I to do the workshops together? Zero. It's completely covered by the grant. There's no cost to you, no cost to the participant. The grant covers it. So that way we can further teach them what each of these elements mean, and then we turn around and help them apply it. So we don't just talk about a business plan, we help them create one. We don't just talk about having a credible, compliant business, we help them create one. We don't just talk about the 3 C's, we actually help them. So we want to go from assessing to our call to action, which is one of 2 things. Either they say they're fundable, so let's get their data set and confirm, or they're not fundable and let's take them into education. Now, there technically is a third option, so let's go ahead and put it. So we'll make this 3A. So 3A is if they have everything. Let's collect the data. 3B is they don't have everything, so we're going to bring them into the free training. And then the third option is we could certainly enroll them in we'll make it capitalized, your white label partner 4-week funding program. So there are, I guess, 3 options, one of which is if they're already fundable, let's get the documentation, we'll review it together, and then we'll take them to the right lending source. They will have no upfront cost. They'll pay based upon the capital raise. You and I split that down the middle, so it's great. If they're not fundable, we can lead with education, which we've talked a lot about. Look back at yesterday's training if you need a refresher on it. And then third, if they're ready to get to business, we can enroll them in the 4-week funding program. The 4-week funding program is the resource that you, if you're a white label partner, offers. It's described on 4weekfunding.com. It still has much of the same similarities of the 4-week approach, but here we're providing them a lot of the tools and resources, and a synopsis is down here at the bottom. So for example, we'll get them seed capital to start with, so they have some working capital to work with. We'll take care of the cost of filing with the Secretary of State. We'll give them an address. We'll provide them collateral. So this has more deliverables than just the education. That's the difference. So the topic matter is the same. Here, free education. Here is implementation. And so they could do one or both or either. In terms of which of these options, you're in control of which of these 3 options the client or the prospective client progresses with, because you're the one that's done their assessment. So what questions, comments, concerns do any of you have on the 3-step process, simple process of qualifying the prospect, assessing them, and then the call to action, which is one of these 3 things, which is up to you and them what they want to do. As far as money, I see Sarah's asking about money. So white label partners pick the pricing for this option. Normally, white label partners make $1,000 up front. We did mention yesterday on training split pricing. is available. And that means client can start with just $500. And so 250 to you, 250 to us. You'll still get the full 1,000, but we're deferring the rest until after funding or after the 28 days. So if they want to execute and have the tools and resources, you're going to pick the pricing. Normally it's $2,000. We do a 50-50 split, which puts 1,000 in your pocket up front. However, if you want to make it easier for clients to enroll, you can split that up where they pay 500 up front. And again, we're doing a 50-50 split, so that puts 250 in your pocket, and then we'll collect the rest of that with a net 30 agreement. In other words, in 30 days. Okay, so, and then our one-on-one support. So Claude has a question on the video. Yep. So Claude, we're happy to set up a video like this for you. Now you don't need the video. It's just kind of a fun way to describe the same thing that is identified here. Because we need to assess the client. First, we need to pre-qualify them. Let's go back to the cheat sheet. We need to pre-qualify them. I was talking to one of our partners this morning, great guy, and he was telling me about some of these conversations that he's having. And then I kind of interrupted, not to be rude, but do these people need funding? Oh no. Well, my God, man, that's step one is we need to determine, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? If not, then the assessment doesn't matter, right? Then these solutions don't matter. So we're not qualifying them on credit or money or anything such as that. It's just, do they have a problem that we can help them solve? Most entrepreneurs do, so your odds are very good. We need to assess them. And this is what you do. If you're a white label partner, if you were to describe what's the most important thing that a white label partner does, is you educate, you build financial literacy. And this is at the heart of that. So are there tools like Claude's asking about that you can use? Sure. But you can also just be on the phone with them. I don't think, well, it's more than I don't think. I don't believe that just sending out a link and asking people to say yes or no or check the boxes is what you want to have happen. Now, maybe you do that to generate the conversation and then you engage them in a conversation afterwards. But we need to have the conversation with them because just as we talked about on most of these elements, let's go over to the address, for example. So, the question is very simple, but they may not know what that really means or what the implications are or the nuances. Therefore, it's important that someone helps them understand the nuances. And most of these, if we go back to one, here's the nuance. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we're here to help you. We're here to support you. We win at this together. That's the beautiful thing. We're doing a 50-50 revenue split. You should generate right at $11,000 per participant. And so that's not get rich quick, but that's honorable. If we start doing some volume, then that's significant. Claude asked, what does subordinate mean? Okay, so let's go over to the lease. And if they say they have this, then we need to get a copy of the lease to confirm, because otherwise we might go all the way, submit to funding, and then get declined. If they say they don't have it, Claude, we're going to provide that form, so it'll be compliant. But he's asking, what does subordinate mean? So what it means is this. So have you ever been, Claude, at the local shopping mall? And you notice, oh, that store, it's not there anymore. And there's a padlock on the front door into the doors of that store that was closed. And wow, it looks like their inventory's still in there. That's weird. They're out of business, lights are off, but there's a padlock. Well, that's an example where that business probably didn't pay their bills. So There's someone that has a lien against the assets of the business, and they came and put a padlock on it. Well, in that example, Claude, who could have a lien against that business at the mall? Well, it could be the landlord of the mall where they're renting space in case the tenant, the business, hasn't been paying the landlord. It also could maybe be their suppliers. It also could be their bank that loaned them money to buy the inventory that maybe they didn't pay on time. So someone has to have primary, like a first lien, if you will. And so lenders, when it comes to business loans, the lenders want to have the first lien. Therefore, in the lease, it needs to explicitly state that the lender has first lien of the assets of the business, not the landlord. So don't get too bogged down with it. It's a good question. But the key to take away from this, Claude, and others is there are nuances, right? It's not just, do I have a lease? Is it a compliant lease ready for the lender? Do I have a business plan? Is it a compliant business plan that has the nuances? And that's what you and I are experts at doing. But from your world, Claude, it's pretty damn simple, right? You need to find some people and qualify them. Yes or no question. If yes, you need to assess their fundability. Sure, you could use the video. Sure, you could use this checklist. You can do it as you want. You can do it in person. You can do it online. But we need to determine, are they fundable? Not do they desire funding. We've already determined that. It's, is their business fundable? And then from that, there's 3 calls to action. That's up to you. If they say they already have everything, great, collect their documentation. You and I will look at it, find the right lender, take them to the right lender, get them funded. They have no upfront cost. You make money, it's great. Or if they're not fundable, you can bring them into the education, which is recommended. It's simple. It's a nice, easy next step. You don't have to sell anything to anyone. You're just helping them move forward and becoming fundable. Or they can literally enroll in your 4-week funding program where you're able to monetize it. What do we know about the people that go through the education? We know that on average, 91% of the people that do the education will move on to the fee-based program. So you might say, well, why would I want to offer something free when I could go right down here to 3C and make money? Well, sometimes they won't trust you enough to pay you yet, but if we can educate them, then they'll trust you. Maybe what we do doesn't seem relevant, that they don't understand it enough to give you money yet. But after we've done this, they should certainly trust you, trust us, and they certainly should understand it. And so statistically, we have about a 9 out of 10 chance that if they go through the free training, that they'll move forward. So that's where a lot of you take Greg, Jeff, Jessica, a number of you get it, right? All right, what do I need to do? I need to set up a shitload of workshops, which we talked about yesterday. And then we drive people through the process, because 9 out of 10 people that attend a free workshop end up being a paid client. So let's say that Kenya's on here. So let's say Kenya set up a workshop. It was small. We only had 10 people participate. What's Kenya going to make out of that process? $99,000, right? 10 people at the workshop, small. Average conversion is 9 out of 10. Each client is worth 11,000. 9 times 11,000 is 99,000 for a small workshop. Or let's say that you get down to Toby. Toby's a big hitter. Toby says, fuck that. I'm not going to do any small workshops. I'm going to work with key influencers, and I'm going to make sure I have at least 100 people. I'm going to do like Dave Ramsey. I'm going to make sure I have at least 100 people in that workshop. Now, Toby's not going to go find those 100 people. That's not a good use of his time. What Toby's going to do is find a key influencer, the church, the chamber, the one that has a sphere of influence. Now we do a 100-person workshop. We still have the 91% conversion rate. So take that math down. 91 people times 11,000 apiece from 1 month. Big numbers. All right, so this is it. This is what we do. We help people. This is what you need to do. If you're not a white label partner, let's get you signed up. 509pacific.org, no upfront cost. Get set up as a white label partner. We'll have you up and running within 24 hours. And then from that, you just need to simply understand the process. We need to find prospects. We need to qualify them. We need to assess their fundability. And then we take them to the call to action. It's actually relatively simple. It's not a big commitment. Many of you are doing this as a side gig, as a side hustle, as a side income, and that's fine. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Let us know if we can do anything to help you. You've got our contact information here. It's also on, of course, the website here. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.